For the first time ever, NOLA Motorsports Park welcomes the cars and stars of Fanatec GT World Challenge America. And if this 16-turn, 2 3/4 mile track wasn't challenge enough, well, the Bayou has laid out its welcome mat with hot temperatures, humid conditions, and oh yeah, the chance for perhaps some rain as we embark on the first of 2 races here this weekend in the Bayou. Hello everyone, welcome to NOLA Motorsports Park. My name is Ryan Marine. Calvin Fish will be joining me in the commentary booth, and we've got Amanda Busick down in the pit lane, just moments away from getting started for the 3rd round of the Fanatec GT Championship season. Calvin, a track that most of these competitors weren't expecting to race on here this year, but it's been a welcome addition to the calendar, and qualifying saw an incredible show earlier this morning.
It really did. A really mixed up grid for today and tomorrow, and we're really on unknown territory coming in here. Not many teams or drivers certainly have even seen this racetrack before. I think it's been a pleasant surprise in terms of how much fun this racetrack is to drive. Certainly got its challenges in terms of some of the bumps around the high-speed sweepers here, but certainly we saw some great qualifying performances here this morning. And again, that rain, that'll be the ultimate curveball here this afternoon, should it arrive before the end of this race.
Now, before we talk weather forecast, let's take a look at this racetrack, all 16 turns and 2.75 miles of it, with our track preview.
Hi everyone, Robbie Foley here, driver the number 96 Liqui Turner Motorsport BMW, and here we are for a lap at NOLA Motorsports Park. Down to turn 1, 6th gear, into one of the biggest passing zones, braking nice and late at around the 2 board, 3rd gear. Use all that track on the exit, but fight the car back to set up for turn 2, try to get it flat out. It's just flat out. Up to 5th gear here before turn 3, nice late braking. A lot of different lines here for turn 3. I try to pick up the throttle nice and early, tend to use all the track. 3rd gear, work your way back to the left for turn 4. Kind of a light brake, long corner here, but you want to set up for the exit. So nice and patient before you get to the throttle. Right to full throttle, 3rd gear, 4th gear, headed to turn 5. A lot of curb here on the exit in turn 5, fast corner, just a light brake in 4th. And then into turn 6, again, similar to turn 5, light brake. I'm a little wide of the apex there. And now to the high-speed S's here. We just touched 6th gear before braking down to 4th. Down to 4th gear as we head into the S's. Got to set this up like a slalom, getting behind each S to set up for the next one. Up to 5th gear, into the heavy braking of turn 12, down to 2nd gear. And then here I hooked the curb in turn 13, helps turn the car a bit. And then into the last section is all about setting up for your run onto the front straight. So here we are, turn 16, the last corner. Get a nice early exit, early to the throttle. Right out to the wall there, and that's a lap around NOLA Motorsports Park in our Turner Motorsport M4 GT3.
As you can see, no elevation change to speak of here at NOLA Motorsports Park, but despite that, every driver has told us plenty of challenge around this racetrack here just outside of New Orleans. It should be a lot of fun. About 18 GT3 cars set to go here in a matter of moments from New Orleans. Final instructions there. Robbie Foley, who we heard from a moment ago, leaning into the cockpit, speaking with his co-driver, Michael Dinan, who qualified that car 4th on the grid. It's Pro Class cars 1, 2, 3, 4 here today, Calvin, as we look at the conditions. It is hot, it is humid, it is overcast, and we've already had some sprinkles roll through from time to time, and tell you what, the radar is not a pretty one if you're looking for a dry racetrack today.
No, I think the strategists and the drivers are certainly going to be on their toes here this afternoon in identifying if there is any potential rain threat imminent. So you got to be willing to change your strategies. You got to think about that pit stop window. If you've already made your pit stop and if they should close the pit lane, if we should see a caution or anything during that, I would elect to try and stay out. But obviously you got to keep the car on the island, so to speak. So if the conditions get to the point on these Pirelli P0 slicks, you got to make a pit stop. Could that really turn things around during that pit stop window between the 40 and 50-minute mark of this 90-minute race today?
It's going to be fascinating to watch, that's for sure. As mentioned, the top 4 in qualifying, all from the Pro Class, and it was Michele Beretta in his K-Pax Racing debut that put his car on pole. Interesting, though, Calvin, because this was not a driver who expected to be a part of this lineup when the season started, and in fact was not at Sonoma.
No, he ran with the 9 team at Sonoma. So big change in the regulation since the opening rounds of the championship is that is now mandated that a silver driver has to be part of any pro driver lineup. So that meant that the Capex Racing squad with their defending race champions, Andrea Caldarelli, Jordan Pepper, had to split their forces there. They put Jordan in the number 3 car alongside Misha Goikberg, and Beretta has been drafted in because Altoe, who was part of the Capex squad at Sonoma, is a gold-rated driver. So that didn't work. He's now moved over to the 9 car that he ran with last year. So lots of changes, but certainly very exciting for the rest of the season.
It's been like musical chairs since Sonoma with some of these race seats. That again was a look at the racetrack and the track layout here at NOLA. Starting alongside Beretta though on the front row, another impressive qualifying performance from US Racetronics. Loris Spinelli was on pole for race 2 at Sonoma. He'll be on pole for race 2 tomorrow here. But his young co-driver, Stephen Agakani, rapid in qualifying this morning.
That car has been really quick. They certainly laid out their intentions in their final practice yesterday, about a second and a half clear of the field. And we thought, well, was there something strange going on? Were they on sticker tires and everyone else was on well-used rubber? Well, they certainly emphasized the point here this morning. Spinelli was spectacular, Stephen, and really strong qualifying run to line up on the outside of the front row. So coming off a runner-up finish and a top 5 finish at Sonoma, would have potentially been a lot better in that race too, but they had an issue with the wheel where it basically got lathed open, and they had some problems there.
Closing in on the start of the race at NOLA Motorsports Park. Plenty of stories throughout the grid. Getting closer to the formation laps here at the Fanatec GT round number 3 of the championship at NOLA Motorsports Park. So many great stories with Beretta on pole for K-Pax in his debut with the team. Another great story was Ashton Harrison taking the Pro-Am pole. More on that, though, in just a moment. For now, let's check in with the third member of the broadcast team, Amanda Busick.
Well, as you can see right here, Ryan, another one of those stories is weather. Those wet tires are on hand in case we shall need it. I was talking to Jordan Pepper and said that you might want a wet race here, and he said, I sure hope so. But the big story kicking off this race is this duo right here. The reigning champs split driver lineups for this race. And Andrea, we talked to you earlier of now you guys get to be rivals on track. You know what Jordan is capable of. How does that up the ante here?
Yeah, not good. I know it's quick. So we're starting, P1, P3. It's going to be definitely a tough race. We were not like super quick in qualifying. So again, we did a bit of work after quali, but more or less the pace was the same. So it's it's going to be interesting. A very nice race. First time I have him as a rival. So we'll see.
You guys heard that. Engines are fired. And Jordan, we were able to talk to Andrea about this earlier with Sonoma being the last race with you guys together. Looking over last season, what will be the highlight of your time together?
No, well, it's not the last time we're ever going to be together. For now we split up here. There was the change in the rules. It's kind of, for us, a bit annoying that it happened after one round, so the season and everything changes a lot. But yeah, I think we just got to take the situation like we can now, do the best we can for both cars. That's the goal. And moving forward, I'm going to share a car again with Andrea at Spa. So yeah, hopefully back then we get back to winning ways together. Now hopefully I can beat him.
You now are the driver in that 3 car. Have you noticed a difference between the 2 Lambos?
One's black, one's green. So in the end we work hard. The crews are a lot different. Yeah, they feel a bit different, but so does every car. And I think in the end results you saw in qualifying 2, we were very similar to each other. We missed a bit of pace to the others, but it also didn't help having traffic. So yeah, in the end of the day, the cars feel awesome. K-Pax give us incredible cars to go out there and push to the maximum, and we just got to go out and deliver the results for them, simple as.
Great to hear from the reigning champions as the cars head out onto the track. Behind the safety car, formation laps underway, and round 3 of the championship set to get started in just a few moments. That is Michele Beretta making his first start for K-Pax and doing so from pole. Further back, though, if we go back behind the Pro Class cars, hinted at it earlier, Calvin. What a great qualifying effort from Ashton Harrison in Racer's Edge.
Super impressed with her all season long. She's been running a number of championships and seems to step up every single weekend. has double the seat time here this weekend. Her and Laura Spinelli are running in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo event here this weekend. So that's really great when you come on a new circuit to get that extra seat time. But then it's a massive adjustment when you jump out of a Lamborghini Super Trofeo machine into one of these GT3 cars. They have a ton more downforce, a lot more cornering ability. So for her to lay that lap down this morning, it was nip and tuck between her and Chandler Hull for that Pro-Am pole, but she just nipped him right in the final couple of laps there this morning.
Yeah, we bumped into Chandler just a few moments ago, and he initially was told, yep, it was 0.006 of a second, and he thought it was 0.006 to the good. Yeah. They had to tell him, no, you're starting second.
Not a nice surprise.
Not at all, but still a good effort from the Bimmer World team to place that car 6th overall and 2nd in Pro-Am. And then the other great story, I think, from qualifying was the pole-sitting car in the AM class. Charlie Scardina for the Triarsi Competizione team. He'll start 8th overall. Rapid pace in qualifying for race 1.
Yeah, we've seen that sort of performance from Charlie. I mean, he's really gets up on the wheel. I mean, it's a great team, 2-car operation. They're going to do great things this year. And I think also what we noticed this morning with Ryan Dalziel's qualifying run, remember, he laid his fast laps down a little bit later. So let's wait and see. Maybe some of the other manufacturers have a bit more one-lap pace than the Ferrari. But as we get deeper into the run, does that suddenly come to swing it back in their favor?
I will soon find out. Overcast skies, warm, humid conditions. Will the rain come? Will it stay away? So many questions yet to be answered as we head around for the second of 2 formation laps at the start of this 90-minute affair. 2 drivers, mandatory pit stop window right in the middle of it. But the thing that would really throw a wrench into all the strategy is Mother Nature, and we really don't know what to expect.
I think looking at the strategy, if we should start to get some rain around that midpoint, is trying to stay out there, because with a minimum stop time of 79 seconds, unless you're probably within about 25 seconds of the leader, you're going to go a lap down. So then if they close pit lane or we go red, it could really backfire onto a little bit. But again, it's all about the conditions. You have to keep the car on the track. If you're not getting the grip, should we see some rain, then maybe that will force the issue a little bit as to when you time that pit stop.
It's an interesting track from the standpoint that there are 3 distinct different grip levels at various points. New asphalt, some shaved asphalt, and some very old pavement as well that these teams will have to deal with across the course of this 90-minute race. Second and final formation lap underway. The starting grid for race 1 of the weekend. Michele Beretta on pole for K-Pax. Stephen Agakani will start to his flank at the US Racetronics Mercedes. Row 2, Misha Goikhberg and Michael Dinan for K-Pax and Turner Motorsports respectively. Row 3, a 5th starting position overall. Pole for Pro-Am is Ashton Harrison. Chandler Hull by just 6 1/1000ths of a second, demoted to 2nd in qualifying this morning. Then row 4, Scott Smithson, and the pole sitter in AM, Charlie Scardina. Row 5, George Kurtz and Charlie Luck. Charlie and Jan Halen, the points leaders in Pro-Am coming in, but they have struggled this weekend. Then to row 6, Justin Wetherill for the Triarsi Competizione team in a car he shares with Ryan Dial. Will start there alongside David Askew. Ziad Gondor, he'll have Giacomo Altoe as his co-driver this weekend. Starts all the way back in 13th with Jason Harwood from Zalus next to him. Back to row 8, Jeff Burton from Zalus. And Aaron Vogel for real-time racing. She and Michael Cooper have been struggling. Mechanical issues cost them much of their running in FP2 yesterday. They're well back in the second to last row of the grid. Final row, JC Sada and Frank Gannett from AF Corsa and Ian Lacey Racing, respectively. Safety car accelerating away, and we go into the 2x2 formation. 9 rows, 18 cars set to go for the first ever Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS round here at NOLA Motorsports Park. Inside of the front row, the black Lamborghini piloted by the newcomer Michele Beretta. Stephen Agakani, the youngster, starts to the outside for US Racetronics, and a big jump there from Michael Dinan, swings to the outside. The stewards will look at that. Here they make contact with the pit wall. We are green, the field roaring to turn 1.
Yeah, Steve Agakani there just really wasn't up on the pipe. I saw the lights flash. I'm not sure he was in kind of safety car mode there as he was coming up there. Didn't get it cleared in time, but he did not accelerate. You are allowed to pass at this initial start here. On restart, you got to wait for the stripe. So providing he didn't jump it, that is a legit move.
I will take a look at that. I'm sure we'll see a replay. Battle back here. This is for the Pro-Am lead. Chandler Hull to the inside of the BMW. Meanwhile, a spin further back. That's the points leader, Charlie Luck, who went around. Also involved Jason Harward in the Zalus Lamborghini.
See some bodywork parts in the middle of the racetrack. You'd have to think we're going to see a caution for that unless there's enough time for one of the corner workers to get out there and clear that debris.
Need to see if that Jan Halen and Charlie Luck car can get going again. Meanwhile, Scott Smithson with some damage, possibly a tire rub, it looks like, on the left rear.
Have to assume that may have come from a hit with Charlie. They're kind of around a similar position on the grid.
It's happening right in front of George Kurtz in the Riley Motorsports CrowdStrike Mercedes-AMG GT3 Evo. Back at the front of the field, though, and K-Pax has survived the carnage. They run 1-2. Dynan, with a great start, jumps up to third. But again, we'll have to take a look at that start. It seems like everything was on the up and up.
Yeah, lightning fast hands there by Michael Dynan to really see that Agakani wasn't up on the pipe, so to speak, when we came to the green flag condition. I'm sure he got the call over the radio. The team will radio to the driver, green, green, green. He went and had to take big evasive action there.
Frantic lap number 1 is complete. Beretta leading Misha Goikberg, his K-Pax Racing teammate, by 1.2 seconds. Dynan up to third. Agakani drops a couple of spots. He now runs fourth. Leader in Pro-Am is this car. Chandler Hull and full course yellow, presumably the incident involving Charlie Luck, Jason Harward, and possibly others. Luck was not able to get restarted, appears stranded on the side of the racetrack there. That is heartbreak for the team and driver that was so strong in the season opener.
Yeah, this race weekend just really hasn't gotten going for this group that had a sensational start to their campaign. Both of these drivers coming off championships last year. Now united as son-in-law and father-in-law together, sweeping the weekend at Sonoma as Charlie now gets life in the car and is able to drive away. There'll still be that debris there in the middle of the racetrack, but he's now one lap down.
One lap down and with a lot of damage in the front of that car and spewing body parts, as you saw just a moment ago. Right Motorsports, a really good team, and they'll get that car back in the fight if they can.
I mean, that has really shifted that nose all the way across.
Let's take a look at the initial start here, Calvin. Eye on the outside front row starter, Agakani, and then the BMW behind him.
Yeah, well, certainly Beretta takes off like he got the green, so I think that went at the same time Agakani didn't go. That really showcases how wide this front straightaway is for Dynan to be able to flick to the left and not hit the concrete wall there.
And we look further back in the pack to see the issue. There is Luck in the middle of the shot. Didn't see what happened to him. Meanwhile, this was the fight for the Pro-Am lead. Remember, Ashton Harrison took the pole. There's the spin further back, and you were right. There did appear to be a little bit of contact with Smithson.
There is Charlie just overcommitted down at the inside. That is turn 3 on this opening lap. Just didn't really have the tire temperature and grip to make that sort of move. Smithson was the innocent bystander there.
Looked like most of the damage came when Luck was hit there by Harward.
And I think this really comes back. We spoke to Charlie this morning and he said he made a little mistake during qualifying. Should have been further up the grid. And you almost have that mentality going into the race. I'm out of position here. I want to make a move. And he was just too forceful there.
Well, tough start for a couple of competitors here. The early stages at NOLA Motorsports Park, less than 5 minutes complete. Still an hour 25 to go. Charlie Luck limping that car to the pit lane. You see Scott Smithson has arrived as well to the attention of the DXDT racing team. They'll go ahead and swap out tires and take a look for some suspension damage perhaps, because that was sizable contact between the Porsche and the Mercedes.
Yeah, he went in there pretty deep, so missed it by quite a margin there. And for Scott, came into this round of the weekend really looking for a reset. He really felt that Sonoma, they didn't have a handle on the race car. They've kind of gone back to basics a little bit. Came in here a lot stronger. Cars look relatively quick this weekend, so they'll be bitterly disappointed. Sellers qualified up in the top 3 for the race here tomorrow.
Finished 8th and 13th did Smithson and Sellers in the first 2 races of this championship at Sonoma last month. Not the way they hoped it would go, to say the least. And disappointment here, not of their making. Without the bodywork on, Calvin, what are you seeing here on the right car?
I think their day may be done, I'll be honest with you. There's a lot of movement on that front end. That's not a quick fix, and with the depth of this field, I'm not sure how much they're going to gain by trying to get the car back out there. You want to really get it on the alignment pad and everything else. So we'll wait and see. John Wright has so much experience in endurance racing. There's still a lot of time on the clock. If he would want to maybe take it back to the paddock, get it fixed properly, and almost turn it into a little mini test session maybe at the end of this race.
And that will shake up the Pro-Am standings because Luck and Halen swept the weekend in Sonoma and had a healthy advantage in the championship after just 2 rounds. Admittedly, still very early in the going this year, but that will drop them back, depending on the outcome, of course, on what takes place for the rest of the day today. And now you just have to hope the damage isn't so significant that it affects race 2 tomorrow.
Yes, that's really the key, but they're a well-oiled machine, that team, so they'll make sure that Porsche is in great shape. I think Charlie will be frustrated with no mistake. We've seen very few of those over the last couple of seasons watching him, so I think he was just eager to make up for some lost ground. He probably gave him some time in qualifying here.
Luck was super consistent a year ago in GT America, powered by AWS, the single driver 40-minute sprint championship for GT3 and GT4 cars, and won the championship handily in the GT3, or SRO3 as it's known in that championship category, and finished on the podium in his Masters class every single weekend and seemed to be up there in the mix overall as well. So a great deal of frustration, I'm sure, for Charlie, who we're told is out of the race car. Cleanup appears to be wrapping up. Right on board behind the safety car, Michael Dinan. That great start. Now right in third, chasing down the pair of K-Pax Lamborghinis. Michele Beretta, Misha Goigberg, 1-2 in New Orleans. Getting close to restarting this race at NOLA Motorsports Park. Michele Beretta, Misha Goigberg, Michael Dinan, Stephen Agakani. That is the order in the top 4, as well as in the Pro class. Chandler Hull and Ashton Harrison 1-2 in Pro-Am, but quietly a really good start for George Kurtz, who now runs 3rd in class and 7th overall.
Yeah, Mercedes look good here, so I think George is another one of those drivers who felt maybe there's a bit more on the table in qualifying, but he's had a nice clean start here on 7th overall. 3rd in class. Watch for Michael Dinan. Michael Dinan is always up on the pipe when it comes to starts and restarts, so BMW has pretty good horsepower. Don't put it past him to try and make a move on Goldberg into that brake zone in turn 1.
Had a few restarts, as I recall, at Watkins Glen last year in the old M6 GT3 that were eye-opening, just blasted around the K-Pax guys at various times, and really showed just how aggressive Michael's willing to be on a restart. On board now with Stephen Agakani, or we were just a moment ago, US Racetronics, the team. This has been the fastest car here all weekend, so I'm really fascinated by the fact that it's now 4th in line, especially when Laura Spinelli gets in behind the wheel in the second half of this race. Really curious to see what it can do.
Yeah, and I think for the K-Pax squad, they're probably looking at that, recognizing Spinelli's pace. This is good news for them, because if Foley can keep him back there, that may create a bit of a gap for the 2 Lamborghinis to have a bit of a cushion once they get Caldarelli and Pepper behind the wheel for the second half of this race.
Had a massively impressive lap in Spinelli in FP2. That was about a 1.5 seconds clear of everyone. Now, you don't know what people are doing tire-wise in a practice session, so you do need to salt any potential analysis of what you see there in those practices, but he backed it up in qualifying today. That's the thing. Maybe not to the same margin,
right, but
it was still a big gap, 1st to 2nd for tomorrow's race.
Dominant. You know, if he maintains that sort of pace advantage over the field, he's going to kind of walk away from the field here tomorrow. And let's see what he can do. There's a long way to go till we get to that point where we have a driver change today, but certainly the potential in that Mercedes, the number 6 machine, is there and being displayed this weekend.
The race control message to us is that the start is under investigation, so it might be worth highlighting what the rules are at the start as far as staying in your lane, when you can pull out, when you can make a pass, and how it differs from a restart, for instance.
Well, with the initial start, you're not supposed to poke your nose out. They don't want to see a headlight as you're coming towards the field from mid-pack, but I think right there we saw the Lamborghini from the pole jump, and it looked like Agakani did not accelerate, whether he was just too low down in the power range or had some kind of safety mode on the car. And Dynan, to me, just looked like he reacted. You are allowed to pass a car before the stripe on the start. On restarts, it's totally different. You've got to wait for the stripe to make a move. We saw George Kurtz come foul of that in, I think, the GT America race at Sonoma a few weeks ago, where he made a brilliant start, but it was too good.
Yeah, we saw that certainly the first year at Sonoma. I remember that happened, and he got a penalty and had to drive through the field. Ultimately did win that race. A couple of updates from the pit lane. The Wright Motorsports team lets us know it's splitter damage that's the biggest issue for Charlie Luck and company. They've taken that car back to the paddock area and will try and enact repairs there. Meanwhile, Scott Smithson has a new left rear. Damage appears to be negligible, so that's good. This is another look at the start, Cal.
Yeah, it's so close to call, but it looked to me like it went green. The team radioed to Michael. He could see the flag as well and just jumped on the power and had to just jerk to the left to miss running over the top of the Mercedes. I don't think it was a jump start, but they'll be looking at that carefully and have a slightly better, closer look at it than we are seeing right now.
This again, Scott Smithson. We saw him with that tire rub earlier, but as I mentioned, sounds like the team believes that car is okay. Meanwhile, the safety car has pulled off, and we're about to go back to green flag racing with 1 hour and 18 minutes left on the clock. Race 1 of the weekend. What a great start. Michele Beretta sprints ahead. Here comes Dynan bringing down the neck of Goikberg, and it's side by side further back, but on board with Dynan as he makes a bid for second.
Big brave move down to the inside. Misha sweeps across there. That is really tight through turn 1. Further back, Chandler Hull trying to make a move on Agakani.
And another difficult start, or restart in this case for Agakani. He's dropped off the top 4. Goikberg able to hold off Dynan. Great defensive driving there. Good clean fight between those two. And then it's really stacked up behind Agakani, who runs in the 4th spot overall. Hull right now leading in Pro-Am. Ashton Harrison, though, right there trying to find that top spot again.
It is, as Aaron Vogel trying to bounce back from what's been a difficult weekend for real time here. They're still learning the ropes with this chassis, and the driver's getting up to speed with it. But here's Agakani, sits there in the 4th position. Chandler Hull still behind, so it looked to me like Goikberg was allowing his teammate Beretta to kind of get the gap. Didn't want to fight out with him down in the brake zone for turn 2. Got the initial lump off of launch off of turn 16 to gap Michael Dynan, but he got in the draft, really made it difficult down into the brake zone. But Misha Goikberg, he's not shy about getting his elbows out, and certainly made a very bold move there into turn 1 to maintain 2nd position.
Incident between 08 and 45 under review. That is the contact between Luck and Smithson. Meanwhile, I think that was a great call to give a shout out to Aaron Vogel. We see her here, 43 real-time racing Acura. Started all the way back in the 16th spot and now is up into 11th. Great job. That's 11th overall, and even better than that, 6th in class.
Yeah, and they're still learning the ropes, so they're trying to get some more testing under their belts too. They had a problem yesterday with a fuel pump issue. Cost them most of the final practice session yesterday. Not ideal, so this is really damage limitation. Keep tweaking on the car, trying to sweeten it up a little bit, get it more into the wheelhouse of what Aaron Vogel and Michael Cooper are looking for.
Right behind her is David Askew, and that was her team boss last year when she raced under the DXDT racing tent. David, who's teamed up this year with Dirk Muller, runs right behind, 7th in the Pro-Am class.
Had a nice chat with David yesterday. He's pretty positive about their potential for this year. They've not got so many cars underneath their tent this year, a bit more focus on their 2-car operation. Likes Dirk Muller as a teammate. He said I had a wonderful relationship with Ryan Dial. Sad to see him go, but nonetheless, Dirk Muller brings a lot to the table. He's very analytical. He's pushing me hard, and he said, quite honestly, I need to stop making these little mistakes in the races. I feel my pace is getting better and better. I feel fitter than ever. I'm ready to go, but it's just those moments in these stints where he's having the odd error has cost him dearly, and he just wants to clean that up. He knows he's making them, and he's got Stefan Pfeiffer, team manager there, engineer, and Dirk pushing him hard to just keep it on the track. Don't make that critical error and get them behind the 8 ball. On
board with Michael Dynan, who runs 3rd, and his co-driver Robbie Foley is standing by with Amanda.
And we're looking at the track. One of the best things about being here at NOLA Motorsports Park is you can almost see the entire race action happening in front of us. But Robbie, you cue Michael on his starts, his restarts. We do note that the start of the race is being reviewed. From your perspective, what do you think happened at the start?
Yeah, Michael's always very good at starts. We've seen him do it over the last 2 years. He gets a really nice jump. He said on the radio the Mercedes was just a little bit late to go. So it looks like he jumps it, but he said the Lamborghini on pole went, and he started easing and the green came out, and he just got a good jump. So from our side, obviously it's under review. We were not sure, but it looks like he just got a great start.
When you look at the competition that's going to be in this Fanatec GT Pro class this season, what's the threat level for you guys as you assess this full season?
Yeah, well, we're going to lean on our experience from last year. We had a lot of podiums, a win last year. We're in a new car, so every time we take it to a new track, we're learning. The guys are doing a great job giving us a great car each weekend, and I think you're going to see us slowly get better and better as we learn more about this M4 GT3. So far, so good.
Foley and Dynan finished 4th in both races at Sonoma. This is a new car, as we heard them talk about, and everyone who's running the BMW is still learning. One more time, Calvin, what do you make of it?
Take a look, watch for the green, there it goes, and then Dynan leaps out. So it was close, but I think he saw the Lamborghini go, and I'm not sure if he expected the Mercedes to go with him, so whether he waited for the green. I don't think it passed him too soon, but whether they're going to say you jumped out of line a bit too soon. But if someone doesn't go, I mean, it's really a safety situation. You don't want that big compression on one side of the field.
Well, I think helping the case for Turner would be the fact that Agakani dropped back considerably.
Right.
I mean, it was pretty clear that it was not, that Mercedes was not yet accelerating, and might have put Michael in a position, to your point, where he felt like he needed to jump out just to make sure he didn't rear end the car in front of him. But as we said, that's under review right now, and as soon as we learn more, we'll pass that along. In the meantime, Agakani, despite struggling on the initial start, dropping back again on the restart, now is finding the pace, and he has run down Michael Dynan over the last couple of laps.
Yeah, he's escaped the clutches of Chandler Hull, who's our Pro-Am leader, sitting in 5th overall, and now it's allowed him to focus, get into a rhythm, and try and attack Michael Dynan here. So this Mercedes is very quick over the lap. Seemed like they were pretty even. Maybe the BMW had a slight edge at the very end of the straightaway, but it's through the bumps and the compliancy over the curbing that really gives the Mercedes the advantage through the twisty stuff.
Some really good fights throughout this field, and this is one for 6th, 7th, and 8th in Pro-Am. Aaron Vogel, Real-Time Racing, the traditional real-time colors with the white and the purple and the orange. She runs in the 6th spot. David Askew in the Mercedes from DXDT right behind, and then it's Jeff Burton, now with the Zalus team after many years with Reardon Racing. New co-driver this year too, and Corey Lewis, but it's the same Lamborghini platform.
Whoa!
Oh, David Askew bounding over the track limits there, but he keeps it pointed straight.
Yeah, through turn 5, you can use the curb there. He used a little bit more than that and suddenly went for a really rough ride. And we talked about it, just got to eliminate those little mistakes. Keeps it on the racetrack, but loses that position to Jeff Burton.
That's music to the ears of Vogel, who now has a bit of breathing room that simply wasn't there before. See these cars just bouncing over the curbs here too, Calvin. A lot of drivers telling me these curbs are very usable at NOLA, and some are telling me that's part of the fun.
Yeah, it really is. It's a fun racetrack, just finding your way around, just feeling those curbs and eating those up.
So with an hour and 11 minutes left to go here in the race, it's still Michele Beretta out in front by 2.7 seconds over Misha Goikberg in the fight for the overall and pro class lead. And for Pro and Chandler Hull leading Ashton Harrison now by 3.7 seconds. George Kurtz continues to run 3rd here at NOLA.
Today's coverage is brought to you by Fanatec, AWS, and CrowdStrike.
Michele Beretta controlling this race from the front. The pole-sitting K-Pax Racing Lamborghini, the championship-winning car from a year ago, with a slightly different driver lineup now starting in rounds 3 and 4 of the championship. Beretta leading Goikberg by 2.7 seconds. But Calvin, this is good pace here from Misha Goikberg to hang with Beretta, who's one of the up-and-comers in the Lamborghini stable. And Goikberg's right there, not so far off from a pace perspective.
Now, Misha has a lot of pace, particularly when he's up on the wheel and has certain circuits that he really enjoys. Had a lot of prototype experience here in North America, and also knows this Lamborghini Huracan very well from running it with the Grasser Racing team here in North America last year. So it's not a surprise to see him running this close to Lamborghini junior drivers' pace there with Beretta up front.
Dynan and Agakani still fighting for a position. This is JC Sada, AF course of the team. He was running back in 17th and appears to have gone off track. Had to get that car restarted, it looks like.
Yeah.
And possible problems here for Smithson. who had recovered a couple of positions since the restart, but looked to my eye to be a bit off the pace there.
Certainly did, and with JC Sauter, we didn't see him spin, so I'm not sure if he just came for a stop and had to reset the electronics on the racetrack in a safe spot. Sometimes, if there is a technical issue, the team will advise the driver to do that rather than coming down pit lane and losing all of that delta time that you have by coming down pit lane at 50 kilometers an hour. We'll just do it out on the racetrack. Quick stop, refire the electronics. And here comes Agakani. Big run here on Dynan.
But nowhere to go with it. Dynan slipped up wide, left a slight gap. Agakani, you could see him gesturing. He did not like what he saw.
We saw it, Steve, and I think he's done it. Did you see that, guys? Did you see what he did to me?
Love the onboard shots this year. Did you talk with your hands like that when you were a driver, Cal?
Not so much, but I tend to do it now, unfortunately. I don't know why, but oh, Dynan's really pushing it. Not sure if he's lost the handle on the race car a little bit, just overshot that corner a little bit, so feeling the heat from behind. There's Spinelli up on the pit box. Inside, you can see that on our screen, looking at his teammate working over this BMW.
Yeah, looked like a little nudge there in turn 15 from Agakani. Spinelli circumspect in his visage there.
Certainly Stephen is frustrated. You can see it from his hand gestures there. He's driving like an Italian, like his teammate, right?
They're probably the two youngest people in this field, I have to believe.
Yeah, Agakani, I mean, the fact that he's got so much GT3 experience is because he started doing test days in. Oh, it's a late move there down at the inside of turn 3. He wants it to go, and I think Spinelli's wanting him to go as well.
Great fight here for the third position. Dynan's got it. Agakani starting to reel him in. Just over an hour to go in NOLA. The fight is on for the final podium spot. Michael Dynan, Turner Motorsport. He's got that position for the moment. Stephen Agakani, though, breathing down his neck. Might have even used that chrome horn a little bit. Put the bumper to the BMW the last time by turn 15.
Yeah, he's getting really impatient here because Dynan's made a couple of little errors, not a big enough one to allow Agakani by, but he realizes he's much faster. And the problem that they're looking at from the team's perspective is the two K-Pax Lamborghinis galloping away. They're now 8.5 seconds clear of the number 6 machine. You get Spinelli on board, he's going to have a lot of work to do.
This is not a fight for class position, but just overall with Ziad Gondor in the white Lamborghini, TR3 Racing, currently holding down 4th in Pro-Am and 8th overall, but the Am class leader, Charlie Scardina, right there in the tire tracks, and just behind him, 5th in Pro-Am, the teammate to Scardina, is Justin Wetherill.
Yeah, and he's having a nice, strong run. Things really didn't go their way at Sedona. I mean, Wetherill looked like he was really sharp when we saw him on the streets of St. Pete in GT America competition, but didn't have a brilliant weekend at Sonoma. So, bit of a reset here, and I think the Ferrari is going to be good on the long green flag runs here, potentially. Let's see what happens here. Good run off that final corner for Scardina.
He's been massively impressive, a guy that has not done much racing in recent years, but at one time was someone that the Porsche factory was looking at. He was invited to a shootout. This was over a decade ago. As we go to this side-by-side battle once again, Agakani and Dynan will put the talk about Scardina on hold for a moment.
Dynan took it in, he gets out wide, that's turn 5. Is there enough room for Agakani to slice it down to the inside? No, he pinches it a little bit and loses the rear end. Just asked too much of the tires right there. Tried to tighten his hand and maintain the pace. Spinelli will not believe what he's looking at here. That hole that they're in terms of the gap to the leaders is getting ever bigger.
That was a great nip and tuck fight. Here's another look at it, Calvin.
Yeah, Dynan just did a great job of just taking it in deep. He was vulnerable there, but just takes it in super deep. And Agakani sees the opportunity right here. Tries to tuck it to the inside. You can see it's not really clean on that side of the road. Bit of dust kicking up. Just asked too much from the tires at that point.
That turn 5 area with that extra runoff is looks like David Askew off track and back on quickly from a little bit further down in the order. That was from 13th overall, 8th in class. But that turn 5 area with that runoff, you saw Dynan go wide over it. We talked to Brian Till about that yesterday, the steward, and he told us, look, we don't see any advantage in going over there, so we're going to allow it more or less within certain limits, but the key thing is coming back on. You have to be very careful, and if you should exceed that painted area on the outside of that corner, and come back on and make contact. The onus is on you basically from coming off track to back on should you exceed the paint.
Right, and if you get too far off, there's a big hole just before the entry to turn 6 there. This battle is really heating up here.
Around goes Scardina
that
there.
was close. That was so close there.
That was the team car 2 that very nearly collected Scardina. He's going to have to recycle the electronics, it looks like.
Very similar to what Agakani tries to do. Let's take a look and see how it develops. So Gandor's in deep. Scardina just tries to go to the inside, and he has to pinch it a little bit as Ziad kind of maintains the car on the racetrack, keeps the car on the racetrack, and just asks a little too much. It's really high speed through turn 1, 4th gear, very high speed entry. You look at it, you think it's a lot slower than it actually is. They can really roll a lot of mid-corner speed there.
So to update, after a few spins and off-track excursions, Agakani dropped from 3rd overall to 7th and 4th in Pro. He now has 3 Pro-Am cars in between his Mercedes and Michael Dynan, who runs 3rd in that class. Meanwhile, we saw Scardina spin. Not quite sure where he rejoined just yet. Askew had his off. He's dropped back a few spots and now runs 16th and 11th in class. We also saw Jeff Burton lose 2 spots on that previous lap. So all of a sudden, everything happening all at once.
Yeah, it's getting a little bit crazy up front as a K-Pax 1-2. Misha Goikberg has dropped back from his teammate a little bit, nearly a 10-second gap right now at the front of this field.
And very suddenly, we are seeing a pretty big disparity in pace between Beretta and Goikberg. It was nearly 2 seconds on that last lap. It does look like Scardina was able to rejoin in the 11th spot, but does maintain the AM class lead. More from the pits now with Amanda.
Ryan, you talked about how Aga Kahani was in 3rd, went all the way down to 7th. We get over to talk to Laura Spinelli, and the shoulders just drop. And when you were breaking down what may have happened, what did you see?
Listen, the race, don't start really well. We lost some position. Steven have a good pace, but it's a bit tough to overtake in this track, especially if you have the BMW in front that is really fast on the straight. But never give up. The race is really long. We know we have a good car and a good pace race, so we try until the end.
When you look at the passion that Steven has in racing, 19 years old, out here doing this, how much of that was just him wanting to excel here in this race?
Steven had a good experience and a good result with the Super Trofeo. It's the first year with the Mercedes brand, so he's doing very, very well. From Sonoma to here, improve a lot, so I'm really happy to share the car with him. We have to improve together as a team, and we are working on it.
Well, Cal and Ryan, I was talking to Loris yesterday, and he was saying how one of the benefits of this team is that they enjoy the same kind of setup. What benefit do you guys see that helps that Mercedes perform so well here?
Well, I think you need to be on the same page. There's nothing worse than if a driver likes the car on the nose, likes to be very pointy and sharp and can handle a loose condition, and the other driver just wants understeer. So the fact they like a similar setup will really aid them in going to any circuit and moving the bar, making the car quicker, and not having to compromise the setup. That's one of the things with the Pro-Am combination. Typically, a driver can drive a car that's edgy and the Am cannot.
Closing in on the pit window and just over 11 minutes. Michele Beretta continues to show the way. Stephen Agakani trying to recover from the mistake a few moments ago.
Today's coverage is brought to you by Pirelli, Rebellion, and VP Racing Fuels.
More problems for DXDT Racing. This time it is Scott Smithson off track. This car is the one that was clouded by Charlie Luck at the start of the race and had a tire rub. Let's see what happens here.
That's very bizarre. That's really strange to snap around the other way like that. I'm not sure if there was more of a moment going on, or it was like a big armful of lock and just snap back the other way, but it's very bizarre the way that car spun. 45 cars back out. So all credit to John Wright and his crew in terms of getting that car mobile at least. And I think you have to score 70% of the distance, right, to get points. So I'm not sure if they're in that window to make that happen. Long way down. They're like 13 laps down right now, so we'll have to get to work on the math, but it might be close.
And beyond that, they'll need some attrition because they're currently 12th in Pro-Am. You have to be in the top 10 to score points. So, yeah, I think you're right. They need to make sure they get the laps in, get to 70%, but even if they do, there's no guarantee of points scored. That said, we might be seeing some attrition. Jason Harward is shown as in the pit lane and has been now for the last 3 laps. So there could be an issue there. That car also was involved in that incident on the first lap with Luck, with Smithson, and might have some damage from that. We also see David Askew shown in the pit lane. Both of those are Pro-Am cars, so if they were to drop out and Luck and Halen were to be able to go the distance, there is a conceivable opportunity then they could score a point before it's all said and done.
And I think equally important, this is the last track time you're going to see during the race day before the race tomorrow. So identifying if there's any further issues with the race car, getting it dialed in. I mean, the fact they're up against the gun a little bit, against that 70% mark, may stop them from turning this into a big test session where they keep coming down pit lane and adjusting on the race car as well.
So to reset the situation, Beretta leads Goikhberg by 10.5 seconds. Then it's Dynan in the Turner BMW that currently is third. This is the fight that just won't go away. Chandler Hull, 4th overall. Ashton Harrison, 5th. 1st and 2nd in the Pro-Am class.
Yeah, really great little battle here. 2 young drivers going hard at it. Ashton there gets to the inside, tries to get the power down. You can't do that. You can't cut that tighter radius and keep the speed up. So she wisely just follows in the footsteps here of Chandler Hull. Very wide there over the turn 5 bumps, but the car seems to be compliant with that.
Well, think about the prospects of the second half of this race. This battle will be rejoined after the pit stop, except we'll have Bill Oberlin and Mario Farnbacher.
Yeah, no speed there, is there?
Gotta love these Pro-Am lineups. They are so interesting, and tomorrow the lineup, the starting grid is so mixed up with a ton of Pro-Ams mixed up amongst the pros. Much to look forward to. Fight is on for the lead in Pro-Am with Chandler Hull right now keeping Ashton Harrison at bay, but only just.
Wow, she is looking for a way by. The Acura's hooked up. They've got the setup right, and she is piling the pressure on Chandler Hull as he now gets ever closer to Michael Dynan. And going to be curious to see the second half of this race if these BMWs are in close proximity, because Robbie Foley and Bill Oberlin will do the second stints here. Our regular teammates are coming off a big GT3 win at Mid-Ohio just last weekend.
That's a great point, and they're very much in the mix, very close to one another. A man who I'm sure has a big smile on his face watching what Ashton Harrison is doing in his car is Racer's Edge team owner John Meraki, and he's with Amanda.
We're watching it right now, seeing his driver, and he said she's just doing so well here this weekend. After qualifying, Ashton hopped out of her car, and she says, I have no idea how I'm doing this. What has taken Ashton to this different level here this weekend?
Well, I think it's a combination of she's very dedicated. She's very committed to this profession, and she's been working really hard. She prepares ahead of time. We give her all the information we can, and she really works really hard to prepare herself, and I think that makes the difference.
As you look over this, what's happening in the race right now, what gives her the advantage of being able to get on this overtake?
Well, I think that over the long run, our car is set up to maintain the tires underneath it, so we don't kill the tires, and we can have a good car for a long run. And I think that's really going to help us late in each stint and late in the race as well.
Thank you, John.
Watching these two in this fight, Harrison and Hull, these are both young drivers. They are both drivers without a long resume, and as we talked about, I think it was during qualifying this morning, Chandler Hull, he has done a lot of racing in a short amount of time. Ashton Harrison, fairly similar, and this weekend is exemplary of that, racing not just here in Fanatec GT, but also in Lamborghini Super Trofeo.
Well, we talked about their teammates. Mario Farnbacher will take over from Ashton Harrison. Bill Oberlin will take over from Chandler Hull. So it's not only their speed that they bring to the table, but their experience, and they can eliminate a lot of the mistakes and going down, dead ends in terms of the setup with the race car. Maybe a young driver looking for something in a car that's not achievable. And that's why I think these drivers are making so much progress, because of their mentorship from their co-drivers. And they make great driver coaches as well. They'll be on the radio for a lot of the stints, certainly during the practice and qualifying sessions, talking them through, helping these young drivers understand exactly what is going on with their race car.
And for Ashton, that mentorship from Mario goes back to last year. This is her first year racing GT3 cars, barring a start in the Indy 8-hour last year. But she was part of the HPD GT3 Academy, which Racer's Edge helps to run, and they bring in some of the best Honda drivers. Dane Cameron, Mario Farnbacher, Ryan Eversley is part of that, Ricky Taylor, and they help mentor some of these young drivers. And Ashton was part of that academy just 1 year ago. A ton of seat time in this car, even if it wasn't in racing conditions, and that's really, I think, helped to jumpstart her program.
Oh, it really has. I mean, it's been so successful, that program, that, oh, look at this, Ashton looking to get pretty racy there through the tight stuff. Final couple of corners there. That's turn 15. This is 16. Can she keep the nose of that Acura tight enough without getting the aero wash when you're punching a big hole in the air? It helps down the straightaway, but through those medium and long high-speed corners, takes the air off the nose of the car and runs the handling a little bit.
Keep in mind, she became the first woman to win a Fanatec GT World Challenge America powered by AWS race overall when she won the North American component of the Indy 8-hour. That was at the 3-hour mark in this very car with this very team. So she definitely has had some success. It was a decent start to the season in Sonoma, but they look like they are on their game in New Orleans.
Yeah, and these drivers are really learning right now how this track is evolving as you get a little bit deeper into the run. First real chance this weekend to get this long green flag run in conditions like this.
Minutes away from the start of the pit window, and this race will get turned on its head. But for now, the fight at the front of the Pro-Am field continues. Clock down to 53 minutes remaining. It's interesting, this Pro-Am fight. You kind of hinted at this earlier, Calvin. They're starting to catch the third-place car in Pro. Michael Dinan is slipping into their clutches.
Yeah, and Dinan's doing a nice job keeping it steady there. He's obviously can see them right behind, but I think the fact that Ashton is probing and looking away through on Chandler Hull is stopping him from really focusing all of his attention on getting by that BMW in front of him. On board here with Michael Dinan. Just a couple of minutes away from that pit lane opening for the window to make a mandatory stop, 4-tire change, driver change. The minimum pit stop delta this weekend is 79 seconds. Essentially gives you about 40 seconds to get the work done. A drive through here is about 39 by itself.
Down to the pits in Amanda.
Well, you'll see right here, Mario Farnbacher already has his helmet on. I was talking to John Meraki on the strategy here. They are going to pit early in this window, even as well as Ashton's doing out there. It is on strategy. They know that the battle's happening. They're hoping that they can get in, beat on the pit stop, and get out ahead of that car as this race shakes out.
Pit stop's so important, thanks, Amanda, in this championship. And the rules are very specific about when you can come in. There's the minimum time you must spend on the pit lane, but it's an aggressive time here at NOLA, 79 seconds from pit in to pit out, including the pit stop. These teams have to execute during the pit window to keep their drivers in track position.
You have to execute, and also the timing of who is first to make that stop. You have to wait for that pit stop window to open. It's not always the leader like we had a couple of years ago, given that first opportunity. So sometimes if you're a bit deeper in the pack, the pit window will open just as you're about to get to pit lane. So there's that opportunity. By coming in early, we call that the undercut. Doing the driver change, getting fresh Pirelli P0s on, and remember, we've got tire warmers now, so those outlaps are much quicker than if you're on stone cold tires. So there's a big advantage in doing that, particularly with the tire deck we have here. Get a faster driver in, you're pro in the car with the Pro-Am driver lineups. We'll see a reverse psychology for tomorrow when the pros start the race, but certainly today with tire deck circuit, there's a good opportunity to get your fast driver in and lay down some fast laps.
Michele Beretta continues to pace the field for K-Pax. The lead has grown now to 19 seconds. 30 seconds away from the pit window opening. The leaders just came through the start-finish line a few moments ago with Beretta. Here comes Goikberg, who runs second, 20 seconds or so adrift of the sister car, which leads this race overall. They should have a chance to pit this next time by. Now comes the strategy play, especially for K-Pax, and I'd say especially for the #1 car with Beretta behind the wheel. His pace is relatively strong, close to Caldarelli. Do they keep him out, or Calvin, do you think the undercut is powerful? Is that what we're going to see today?
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one. I mean, do you want to double stack your car there in case there's a problem in pit lane? I think certainly for Goikberg, he'd love to get Pepper behind the wheel and see what he can go and do and lay down that undercut lap. But maybe the one car, I'm sure they call these cars separately here, so you're all out for what's best for your individual car, but it's a team effort as well. This will tell the story right now. And in he comes. Here comes Beretta. A really nice opening stint. Grabbed the pole this morning. Solid lap there and didn't put a foot wrong during this opening stint. Does Goikberg follow him? Do they elect to keep him out for one more lap?
You should see a number of cars in the pits already. Aaron Vogel, Charlie Scardina, JC Sada, David Askew, and others making the call to the pit lane at the first time of asking. Here comes Goikberg. He's making his way in too, so K-Pax will have to do those 2 stops more or less simultaneously. This is the real-time racing stop with Vogel turning the car over to Michael Cooper.
So a good clean stop. I believe I read a report where if they win here, this will be the 28th different circuit that real-time racing have won at. Just incredible history. 100 wins plus over the years. Got that 100th victory at Road America with Mike Edlund and Dane Cameron on their home turf. They're based just south of Road America there.
Now you saw the car just sitting there on the rev limiter, and that's because the crew knows you can't release until a certain point or else you'll run afoul of the minimum pit stop time. So usually if you see the car just sitting there like that, that means the crew did its job. Racer's Edge going to work. We saw K-Pax going to work as well.
Yeah, if the car's down and goes away, that means everything's been executed correctly and you're just waiting those final, probably a handful of seconds left if everything is clean.
Good stop and exchange from Vogel to Cooper. They were within a 1/10 of that minimum, 79.1. That's really good. It was a slower stop for the AM class leaders. They lost a bunch of time. Beretta to Caldarelli was a little bit slower than you'd expect too.
Yeah, that's really slow on the #1 machine. Lost about 5 seconds there, so they'll need to sharpen that up.
Good news for them is they had a big lead already. This is a fight here for overall position with Turner and Bimmerworld going side by side. Oberlin now squaring off against Foley, 2 guys who are used to sharing a car, now racing against one another.
Yeah, this is going to be fascinating. You've got the mentor and the student in front right now. What does Bull have up his sleeve of tricks here?
Don't remember them racing around one another at Sonoma. I'm not sure this has happened before. These two have been linked together now for, what, 3 or 4 seasons over in IMSA, and then now finding themselves as competitors in Fanatec GT.
Ton of success together.
Meanwhile, here's Loris Spinelli, and look at this, Calvin. He is right there with the BMW. So the Bimmerworld car ahead, that would not be for class position, but the Turner car is, and this has been the fastest man here all weekend.
Yeah, he's been demonic behind the wheel of this Mercedes, got a ton of confidence going, and he just needs to be a little bit patient, can't afford to wait too long. I think he's going to need a break with maybe a caution and maybe get to those K-Pax Huracans. But he certainly has displayed the pace potential to cut into that margin. Can't afford to get stuck though, get stymied. You suddenly get in the aero wash of those cars in front of you. And as he said, he knows that those BMWs are really quick on the straightaway.
A couple of other pit stops to note. The transition from Wetherell to Dial was a slow one, about 12 seconds slow on that pit stop. And also Burton to Lewis for Zalus was much slower, 13 seconds or so over the minimum time in pit lane. Everybody else right there in the window you'd expect them to be on. It does look like Harrison to Farnbacher was a couple seconds slow. We'll see if that costs them when it all shakes out. But for now, we focus our attention on this 3-way fight for 3rd, 4th, and 5th overall. Foley, Oberlin, Spinelli, 2 BMWs and a Mercedes.
Yeah, Spinelli's caught these guys in a hurry. He is on it. Let's see if we can really see where that Mercedes is eating up the competition through this twisty stuff. Let's not forget, these drivers don't know Spinelli very well, so typically when you're in race mode, you've raced against some of these drivers for seasons on end. Yet for Bill Auberlen, he doesn't know much about this Italian he's got right behind him.
For those at home that are not familiar with Loris Spinelli, he is a multi-time champion in Lamborghini Super Trofeo competition in domestic championships as well as in their global world final event. He won the Pro-Am World Final back in 2018. He also won the North American Pro-Am Championship that year, as well as the European Championship back in 2018. That helped to get him on the map as far as Lamborghinis are concerned. And he's racing Super Trofeo this weekend, but he's pretty rapid in a Mercedes too, and has had some experience with them in International GT Open and Italian GT Endurance in recent years. Right now, he runs in the 5th spots.
Today's coverage is brought to you by Asus Republic of Gamers, Motul, Stay Frosty, and 511.
Like all of the front runners have made their way to the pit lane, and we mentioned the fact that it was a slower stop by about 2 seconds for Racer's Edge. Ashton Harrison and Mario Farnbacher, the drivers of that car, and it seems like it has cost them some track position, Calvin. They're all the way back in 6th and a little ways behind this fight here.
Yeah, it really has. So those pit stops are critical. You have to be efficient with those. There should be plenty of time on the board, but if any little thing goes wrong, suddenly those handful of seconds that you have as a buffer can be erased. But so now Farnbacher up on the wheel in full attack mode. Spinelli caught the BMWs really quick. He had a bit of a moment coming through the S's a couple of laps ago and lost a ton of ground, but it really showcased about that Mercedes how compliant it is. You can get really ragged with it, and it kind of stays with you, particularly in the hands of one of these pros.
With the fresh tires, the rubber on the racetrack, and now pros behind the wheels of the Pro-Am cars. Looking at the lap times, they are rapid. Caldarelli, a 35.1. Pepper with the race's fastest lap a moment ago, was a 35 flat. Everyone else in the low to mid 35. Spinelli continues to throw down fast lap after fast lap. He's among the fastest on the track that most recent time by, running in the 4th spot with a 35.1.
Well, talk about parity. The top 8 in this race have all run fastest laps of this race within 0.2 of a second of one another so far. So there's no one with a massive advantage right now. I think Spinelli, if he can clear this group and get some clean air, potentially he can cut the fastest lap of this race. But you can see him really carving the corners. That Mercedes really dives into these apexes, keeps the front of the nose there, or the nose there. So he's got to be patient, but he's got a wily old veteran in front of him, right? I mean, Bill Auberlen, he's like a vintage red wine, just gets better with age, it seems. Just amazing passion for his sport. Just his desire to win just doesn't seem to diminish year in and year out.
No question about it. Keeps racking up those wins, and look at the number of wins he's had in a BMW. I'm not sure anyone will ever approach those numbers. I know records are made to be broken, but to put together a career as long and successful, and all basically with the same manufacturer as Bill has, that is a hard thing to do. I know he's driven for other manufacturers, certainly Mazda early in his career, but in recent years, his name is synonymous with the Rondell of BMW. Right now, it's Caldarelli out in front of Pepper. Andrea Caldarelli, Jordan Pepper 1-2, Robbie Foley runs 3rd. Quite a ways behind, with Bill Auberlen in 4th overall, but leading in Pro-Am. Then behind him, it's the US Racetronics Mercedes of Loris Spinelli, 4th in Pro, 5th overall. Mario Farnbacher, though, starting to run these guys down, and behind him, how about this for synergy? CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race to the CrowdStrike car, Colin Brown for Riley Motorsports, running 7th, but 3rd in Pro-Am.
Yeah, and it's again showcasing how strong the Mercedes is. So it's horses for courses. Certainly Mercedes is one of those cars that seems to be pretty good everywhere we go, right? It's just kind of in the middle of the road in terms of ticking all of the boxes. But boy, oh boy, it really seems to be well suited here. And Colin Brown has shown its pace right there. Admittedly, a lot of work to do. Sitting 3rd in the Pro-Am class, 7th on the road. There he is. Clean air up ahead of him. Coming off a big victory at Mid-Ohio himself last weekend in prototype competition as well.
George Kurtz started this car, drove it up into third, and that's where it runs in the Pro-Am class right now. They had a great start to the year, maybe a bit under the radar, but a second and a third in those two races in Sonoma. That's got them second in points, 17 points behind Haywan and Luck. And as we've chronicled, Haywan and Luck right now are not in a position to score points after that lap 1 incident for Charlie here in race 3 of the season.
Look at this, Spinelli is probing. Orblin got big understeer there through 215, got a little bit wide. Spinelli tried to tuck it to the inside. Now he's tightened the draft there, but as you can see, he really doesn't make up anything in the draft of Bill Orblin down this front straightaway. Pretty much keeps it right there. Such a high-speed entry to turn 1. There's not a big brake zone there where you can kind of shuffle it down the inside unless you are super close. So it's now through this sector. He's just hoping that maybe the tire deck on that BMW will be a little bit stronger and have more effect on Bill Orblin's pace than his in the Mercedes. Look at him carving these corners, just able to really tighten up around these apexes. Watch if he dives down to the inside here. He does. He looks to the inside.
Bill saw him coming and gave him just enough room. They're side by side through 5. Now can they get it sorted out through 6? Oberlin making the long way around work, able to keep that wheel open. That's through 5, excuse me. Now this is 6.
Yeah, didn't panic, did he?
No.
Just knew he was there, but just gave him enough racing room so there wasn't a touch. But as the tire deck gets a bit more forceful throughout the course of this race, maybe those sort of moves will be doable where you're far enough alongside before you get to the next corner. But this is absolutely ruining Spinelli's race. So those little issues for Agakani with the initial start, the spin, just dug them a big hole in terms of catching the leading K-Pax Lamborghinis.
Well, the frustration, I have to believe, for Spinelli is the fact that that's not a fight for class position. Oberlin is the Pro-Am leader. Spinelli is in the 4th place car in Pro. If he could just get around Bill, then he could take the fight to the next car in his class. But I have to believe that the reason Bill is fighting so hard is Mario Farnbacher is coming. And if he can keep Spinelli behind him, that's just that little bit of a buffer as we watch Onofrio Triarci, AM-class leader, touring the track.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, Bill's a racer. He doesn't like to be passed. He doesn't care if it's a different class or not. You're all running GT3 machinery, right? So you're all even Stevens in terms of the performance factor. But I think you are. He's thinking about that overall, that class position. Leading Pro-Am, it would be their first victory. Came out the box strong with a podium at round 1 at Sonoma. Struggled a bit on day 2 because they didn't have the track position then. And also blew out the tyre pressures a little bit in the opening stint for Orblin there, so they learned a lot that day. But Orblin would love to keep Spinelli as that little buffer between he and Farnbacher.
This is Onofrio Triarci, like I said, leading in the AM class in a hefty margin at that. This would be remarkable here, Calvin, because AF Corsa has been the dominant team almost by default, to be entirely honest, over the last year plus in the AM class. This Triarci team showed up at Sebring last year. They won the first race there, kind of announced their intentions. They told us at the time, we're planning on being there, 2 cars full season next year, and that's been the case. They had good pace, as we see Pepper work his way through lap traffic. Good pace at Sonoma, but came away second in both of those races. So if they could break the AF Corsa stranglehold here in race 1 at least, that would be a nice boost for the Triarci team.
Yeah, nice feather in their cap, that is for certain. So now these drivers are experiencing a bit of traffic themselves up in front of them. Who's going to deal with it best? So Foley has to open up the door first. Let's not forget, Pepper's not that far down the road on this gaggle here. Only about 2.5 seconds. You see that lime green Lamborghini Huracan just getting to the brake zone as Foley and company head down on into there.
That's true. He's not made much in the way of inroads on Caldarelli. That gap has been stable. If anything, I think he's lost a fraction to Caldarelli since this stint began. It's still Andrea by 21.5 seconds over his erstwhile teammate, Jordan Pepper. But then you get to this fight here, like you said, just a 2-second difference between where Pepper runs and here, Robbie Foley. Pepper cleared Drew Stavely's lapped Ian Lacey Racing Aston Martin a few moments ago. Uh-oh. Is that? Oh, never mind. Sorry, it looked like this car was off the pace for a moment. Evidently all is well, and we might have an update on Colin from Amanda.
We'll get to that. George might not even be aware of that yet, so we're going to look for effort and update on Colin. But coming into this, Charlie Luck wrecked right in front of George Kurtz, so he knows very well the point situation of the Pro-Am and how that opens the door for you guys. Having success here, how huge would that be?
It'd be huge. We had a decent start, and we saw Charlie I mean, I saw him on my left, and you know, I just knew it was going to be a dive bomb, and I just tried to get out of the way. I was lucky that I didn't hit anybody in the mess there, and you know, put our heads down. The other 2 cars in front were pretty quick, but you know, if we can come in with good points and get on the podium, I think that'd be a win for us today. We struggled in the first session of practice, and cars have been a little bit rough all weekend, but we're just chipping away and trying to do the best we can to get points out of this weekend.
It was a last-minute adjustment with the Fanatec GT Series coming here to NOLA. What do you make of it so far?
Well, it's an interesting track. It's actually growing on me. It's super hot and really bumpy, but we set the car up. We got some better performance out of it, and it's so far it's been a great weekend. We'll see what happens tomorrow when it rains.
George seems pretty confident about the weather tomorrow, so we'll have to wait and see. We thought we were going to see some rain here this afternoon. Here is how Spinelli got by Oberlin through the twisty stuff, traffic up ahead. He's just able to tuck it to the inside. That's the final corner. We'd seen him take a look a couple of laps ago and finally made a stick, taking advantage of maybe Oberlin's sights being distracted a little bit by that traffic on his left.
You said it earlier, the Mercedes and its compliance over these curbs, it's noticeable, the advantage that it gives to Spinelli. It seems like they really help to rotate that car.
It does, and I think conversely with the BMW SF, it does have a tendency in its early phases of a brand new race car, the M4, it does have a bit of understeer, so that's typically what they're trying to dial out of the M4 at the same time. So for Oberlin, now he's got the Pro-Am runner-up class position right behind him, so now having to defend the class lead as well as track position that he was against Spinelli. Farbacher is on the attack and coming in a hurry.
How about this? We've got podium positions up for grabs right there in that same camera shot. Foley and Spinelli now locked in a duel for third in Pro. And then we've got Oberlin and Farnbacher going to battle for the lead in Pro-Am. Here's Giacomo Altoe, who has the CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race. Set that just a little while ago at a 34.8. He runs in fourth, but is a considerable distance behind Colin Brown in the Mercedes that holds the third and final podium position in Pro-Am.
I tell you what, the level of competition this year is just sensational. As I said earlier, the top 8 are running lap times within 2 to 3 tenths maximum of one another, typically even closer than that, as Spinelli is now putting the heat on Robbie Foley. This is for class position as well. This is third and fourth on the road and third and fourth in the pro class.
Just over 30 minutes to go. And by the way, about an hour ago when we got this race started, you might remember the excitement at the very start. Race control announced that it was under review. We got the message a few moments ago, no action taken. So the Turner BMW cleared, as was everyone else for that matter, for the way that that race started. And that meshes with what you saw.
I think so. It would have been such a close call. And I mean, at the end of the day, we're racing, right? We're going to the green flag. We're in the acceleration zone. The pole sitter takes off. I think that would have been super harsh on Michael Dinan. He was effectively on the gas like the pole sitter was in the other column. And if for whatever reason Aga Khan just didn't get the power down or anticipate the start quite as quickly, you really shouldn't be penalized for that, because coming down pit lane just costs you so dearly. So good news is that Robbie Foley, his teammate, can now just focus forward in terms of maintaining this track position, look for another podium run here, but Spinelli's going to make that awfully tough. A lot of time on the board to protect this track position.
It's an interesting matchup between the BMW and the Mercedes. We heard Spinelli in the interview earlier make note of the fact that as Aga Khan was trying to pass Dinan, these two cars running effectively in this position earlier, that the straight line advantage of the BMW made it really difficult for the Mercedes. So if they're going to get it done, it's got to be in a place like this. And as we've talked about, that Mercedes can keep that closer line. You can keep it tucked in and carve those corners in a way I'm not sure any other car can.
Yeah, you can see it right there again on the other BMW, this time of Robbie Foley. He's just able to tuck it in. Get some, and the other thing is you're doing by being able to run on that inside lane a little bit. You're kind of getting some nose to at least half of that splitter. Do you know what I mean? It's not being completely blocked out, a little bit like you do on an oval where you're trying to get that inside front wing in the Indy 500.
A couple updates from the pit lane. It's been a tough day for DXDT Racing. David Askew earlier parked the car. They just couldn't find the speed, evidently, and didn't feel like it was safe to continue. Meanwhile, this is the sister car that's been through the wars today. Scott Smithson back in the pits for the third time. Sorry, Scott Smithson started this car, but Brian Sellers now driving with some more damage, this time to the front. So it's been a challenging day, to say the least, for the North Carolina-based team.
Challenging start to the season. Did not have a great weekend. Sonoma came in here on the back of a 2-day test last weekend. Thought that would give them the jump on the competition, but it's tough. But they have a good spot for tomorrow. See what they can do on Sunday.
Good fight here for 5th in Pro-Am. Michael Cooper has it. Ryan Dial trying to take it away. Battles all throughout the field with less than 30 minutes remaining. Race 1 of the weekend at NOLA Motorsports Park near New Orleans.
Today's coverage is brought to you by Acura, BMW M, and Ferrari.
Caldarelli, Pepper, Foley, the top 3 overall. Foley in the Liqui-Moly-sponsored BMW, which you see right there. Holding on to that 3rd and final podium position, but coming under a lot of pressure from Laura Spinelli, who has been incredibly quick this weekend. Fastest in FP2, fastest in Q2 as well. Here's a replay of an attempt he made to get that spot away from Foley.
And he loves the fact that he can dive into these apexes, but runs really wide there. Foley's probably going to do the chop over there on the exit of the corner, so overcommitted a little bit. I mean, I think the move is on. He just needs to be a bit more subtle with it. Just overcommitted and couldn't really get the car slowed in time. So nice racecraft there by Robbie Foley, recognizing that, not having contact and rebounding. Meanwhile, looks like Aublin's car has settled back down a little bit. He's found some clean air, just got enough of a gap probably to get the front end pinned a little bit more, not getting the air wash quite as much as he was in close proximity, and he's dropped Farnbacher a little bit.
Yeah, and that's interesting because Mario was on a charge, closing this group down, and looked like he was going to put Bill under a great deal of pressure, but that's not the way it's played out.
Yeah, I think we both felt that Farnbacher could be on the attack to get the Pro-Am lead. We thought Spinelli would just keep romping it forward, but just shows how tough the competition is and how much patience you have to have. I mean, Pepper right now has extended the lead on this chasing pack by 4.3 seconds, the gap between he and Caldarelli. He stayed pretty constant. There was one traffic lap that Pepper had that cost him about a second and a half about 5-10 minutes ago. Otherwise, I think he and Caldarelli have really been trading laps within a tenth of a second of one another.
You look at that car's best lap, the top two cars, and they're within a tenth of one another, and that's just their best lap, but we've seen that consistently over the course of this second stint in particular. This is Mario Farnbacher from Ansbach in Germany. Great racing family, the Farnbachers. It's been a big part of the HPD Honda GT3 program over the last few years.
Well, they love him there. HPD absolutely adore Mario Farnbacher. They feel he is the man. He is really the leading light for them in GT3 competition. Wherever they can put him globally, they want him behind the wheel of one of these Acuras.
Won championships in 2019 to 2020. Won his class at the Nürburgring 24 in 2016. It was in basically a Porsche Cup car class. Interesting. Looking at the front of US Racetronics Mercedes, that hood seems to be flapping around a little bit.
Yeah, I noticed that earlier in the going with Aga Khani as well, so I don't think it's affecting anything, but nonetheless, I mean, you got those little waves in the pavement coming down the front straightaway at speed, so I think you see it more there.
Doesn't seem to be slowing him down as he continues to put the pressure on Robbie Foley in the fight for third in Pro. Laura Spinelli pressuring Robbie Foley. This is for third overall, third in Pro. 26 minutes left in race 1 of the weekend. It's BMW versus Mercedes.
Yeah, as we said about 10 minutes ago, it's going to be a long stint for Robbie Foley to keep Spinelli right there. He's doing a great job of it. Spinelli had a big lunge about 5 minutes ago, couldn't quite seal the deal, but Foley really showcasing how much he's moved his career in terms of the experience level, his pace, no mistakes, just really rock solid behind the wheel of this Turner Motorsports BMW M4.
He was a champion in GT4 competition a couple of years ago in Pirelli GT4 America back in 2020 when he was teamed, as he is now, with Michael Dynan. What a great season those two had together. Foley has been a big part of Dynan's progression. He spends his time as a driver coach, does Foley, at Monticello Driving Club in New York. Back to the front of the field in Caldarelli, who frankly we've not had much cause to talk about because he has been so far out in front, but this is what we come to expect from the Italian when he comes to race stateside.
Well, it's all about setting the table, and that was really set in qualifying this morning with Beretta's pole lap, a good start, maintained it, sort of like separated himself from his teammate Misha Goldberg a little bit in that opening stanza, and that gave them the big buffer here. And despite Jordan Pepper's best efforts, when you're going up against Caldarelli, hard to really erase that margin. Spinelli now to the inside, that's really close. Now, when he had to tuck it like that, he would have to have given up the throttle at the same time, so he couldn't accelerate off the corner.
As you analyze these two cars, Calvin, where is it that the Mercedes can pounce? It seems like it can't be in any of the traditional areas because of the straight line edge the BMW seems to have.
Well, you got the sequencing of the corners where it's one after another, so you may have the edge on acceleration out, but you can't quite clear them before you get to the next one. We saw that with Spinelli and Oberlin when they sort of like got towards turn 5. Oberlin just kept it, you know, hard around the outside and managed to clear him, so he had to give it up. But again, I really feel as we get towards the last 10-15 minutes, if he hasn't made a move by then, maybe, just maybe, the Mercedes will have enough of an edge to make it stick.
Keep in mind, lap traffic just out in front of these guys. That's Onofrio Triarci in the AM class leader. Look how close it is through 15 and 16. Coming out onto the front straightaway. Did look like maybe Spinelli got checked up a bit at the apex there, and now he's coming under threat. Keep an eye on the straight line speed of Oberlin in the BMW. Spinelli has to go on the defensive.
Oh, I don't like the second move he took to the middle of the road, and I think the stewards will be looking at that. Race director Brian Till may have a little word with them on the radio. He picked the middle of the road, and as Oberlin flicked to the left to try and get that outside lane, Spinelli reacted to that. Be proactive. You can't react to a move from behind.
Oh, here we go. Side by side to the inside Foley, to the outside Spinelli. Is there room out there to make the pass stick? There is not. Spinelli, though, right on the attack again. Didn't waste any time trying to cross over the BMW of Foley.
Tries it now. He's got to be careful there that he doesn't get balked a little bit and lose some momentum, because Oberlin's going to pounce. He's not afraid to stick it in there, even though he's still got the lead in Pro-Am. He can see Farnbacher coming, so he'd like Robbie, his teammate, on a regular basis to leap up the road a little bit and give him some clean air, because he's really got to focus on that bright red Acura behind him.
We saw Spinelli get checked up coming out on the front straightaway, and he was then defending from Oberlin. It's amazing to me how quickly he could turn that around and go on the attack again.
Yeah, we saw it both ways in terms of, I get what you're saying. Like, he immediately went on the attack on Foley by the time they got to turn 3. And that's how sharp these races are. They don't sort of like get bogged down in the exact situation. They're thinking big picture. And he realized, okay, I've kept Oberlin there. Now let's go on the attack. There's an opportunity on Foley.
And Farnbacher is using this as his chance now. That's the fight for the Pro-Am lead. Let's not lose track of that. 3rd and 4th in Pro. That's what's out in front with Foley and Spinelli. Then it's Oberlin, the class leader in Pro-Am, with his closest pursuer, Mario Farnbacher, right behind.
Yeah, just a fascinating duel. And still a lot of time on the board still for some of these drivers to make some moves.
Well, there you go. Top speeds, race vision powered by AWS, BMW, BMW, BMW. And then you get to the Acura that's right there in this mix too. So it's interesting to show top speed's not everything, because Spinelli might be the best car across the whole lap here, but doesn't even show up. Everybody he's racing against does.
Well, we saw it in qualifying this morning. He had pole for tomorrow by a solid half-second plus, but he wasn't quicker in any of the 3 sectors. It was the complete lap that he put together.
Yeah, remarkable. Great stats from our partners with Amazon Web Services as well. Foley, an impressive stint here. It wasn't that long ago, and he was kind of in the Michael Dinan role. He was being shepherded along by Bill Oberlin. And now he stands alone as an experienced veteran in his own right.
He really does. Just rock solid, super nice kid. Networks well within the paddock. You need to be likable. For a young driver, you got to be fast, you got to perform, you got to get the results, but you need to be likable as well, and Robbie is just a fine young man.
A really good athlete, too. He was a great American football player in his youth, but had a really significant knee injury that curtailed his football career, and ultimately went to, and was homeschooled after that injury. It was such a severe injury for a time. And as
you say homeschooled, he was on the simulator.
Well, that's basically it, because he was able to talk his parents basically as a reward for his academics and his recovery to go do a Skip Barber school. He did it in the MX-5 car and did that for getting straight A's. He was rewarded that trip to the Skip Barber Racing School, and he's not looked back since.
I'll tell you a story. When I was a young kid, used to go-karting. We used to get 2 ticks a day if you showed up for school, and in one term I had 70 zeros, which meant I missed 35 days of school in one term. So racing will take you in different directions. It's worked out for myself, and certainly for Robbie. He's got a great career ahead of him.
That's very true. One of his close friends is Michael Cooper, and Michael right here in the the real-time racing Acura. He's been able to keep Ryan Dial behind. This is 5th and 6th in Pro-Am, 9th and 10th overall. It's a pretty good recovery for real time, and Erin Vogel started this car. She's standing by with our Amanda Busick.
Well, you talk about the recovery that Real Time has had here this weekend. Erin has not been secret about the struggles that you guys have faced this season. You started P11, now all the way up in the 5th position. How hard are you guys working this car this weekend?
Yeah, we've struggled a little bit just getting the setup exactly where we want it. You know, we have the speed, we just kind of don't feel like we're really there with it in the corners. So to come up, you know, to have a run like this so far has been really great. It was just, you know, trying to keep our nose clean in the first part of the race and not let up when the tire was still good, because, you know, the car's definitely better then. So just pushing forward and, you know, just a little bit of luck, a little bit of hard work, and hopefully, you know, right now we're in a really big battle with Ryan DL, and just hopefully Michael can keep the pace and keep the car and, you know, stay out ahead and finish top 5. So we'll just see.
As you guys keep battling this setup, how hard is that on a driver mentally to stay in it?
Yeah, it's a lot more work mentally, because you're constantly having to, you know, balance the car with the racing. You know, when the car's really good, all you have to do is do the race and do the, you know, focus on your racecraft. But when you're balancing both, you know, you've got so much of your bandwidth is dedicated to just keeping the car clean, so that you can race.
I relate to my golf game. Oh, here we go. Spinelli elbows Foley out. Foley doesn't want to give it up. This is coming out of turn 4. Aublin's right there, though, so Foley's got to be careful he doesn't get too aggressive here, because Aublin's got a big run. Now he gets to the inside, forces him out wide. They cut down a tire, I think, on the left front on Foley.
That was a lot of rubbing, and you could do it in GT3, but it did look like perhaps the bodywork made contact with the Pirelli, and the safety car comes out because Robbie Foley is stranded in the gravel trap after some side-to-side contact with Laura Spinelli. It looked like that went kind of both ways, Calvin.
Yeah, it did. I think Spinelli had enough, and he basically got to the inside and wanted to make it stick, so he gave Robbie a bit of a rough ride coming out. He's trying to rope it up his hand, Spinelli is, so he can keep the power down. Watch it there, sort of tails away. You can see him kind of leaning on Robbie. Robbie probably didn't like that, so he gets pretty forceful here as we enter turn 5. And then Spinelli gets up over the bumps. That gives Robbie the inside line there, and then just that hit with his left front against Spinelli's right front somehow ruptured the sidewall on that Pirelli and cuts it down. That's disappointment right there. It was a great battle, but sad to see it go in this direction.
It is frustration for the Turner team. It's not been the most straightforward start to their season. They adapt to the new M4 GT3. Let's go on board and just listen.
Yeah, just that glancing blow there. I mean, I don't think that was super dirty driving by either one of them. It's just really forceful, hard aggression. Didn't want to give it up. It was for the final podium position in Pro. And Robbie legitimately got back down to the inside, but just unfortunately that side-by-side contact caused that tire to go down.
And the talk throughout the paddock has been how this track lends itself to that. You're going to have to be forceful to make some of these passes stick. Safety car out with 16 minutes to go. Now, what this does is it erases a 24-second, nearly 25-second lead from Caldarelli to Jordan Pepper. What it does not do is move some of this lap traffic out of the way. So that's what's preventing us from having a fierce duel between the two K-Pax drivers at the restart. But if Pepper can make quick work of Cooper and Dial, and also that would be Conrad Grunwald, I believe, in the AF Corsa car, the second place car in AM, we could have something on our hands.
Yeah, and Spinelli's now got that 3rd position in the Pro class. Foley's in 4th and off the road, of course, so that's pretty safe. So Yeah, he's got 2 Pro-Am cars in front of him again with Oberlin and Farnbacher now, which he hasn't seen sight of today yet. So Mario's not going to make it easy. And I think the real key for Caldarelli before his old teammate and partner in the championship last year, Jordan Pepper, is able to go on the attack. He's really got to take off at the start here, try and take advantage of those lap cars there.
These are 2 other cars that I think suddenly are in the conversation where they weren't before. Colin Brown, that car has been really fast, had the contract fastest lap until the white TR3 car of Giacomo Altoe took it away, and now they suddenly find themselves much closer to the front of the Pro-Am field than they had been, but there won't be that much time to work with as of now, less than 15 minutes to go, at least 1 more safety car lap needing to be run.
Curious to see Spinelli's car here, if there's any damage to it. I mean, I see the front winglets all good. Dive planes there look okay. The key sometimes is down the side as whether the exhaust gets crimped or something. And affect engine performance.
Is that something he might be able to see now, or could the crew see that on telemetry?
Yeah. Well, sometimes you just run over the pit wall. There's nothing like having a good close look. Just have him drive down close to the pit wall and see if there's any damage. Which have been the rubs as they came off of turn 4 when Foley was on his left, and the other side is where he and Foley came together to put Foley off the road here. So both sides have taken some hits.
This is where we stand with the cleanup. Foley buried in the gravel, cut left front tire as a result of that side-to-side contact. He'll need to be extricated. 13.5 minutes left, still under the safety car. Final closing moments here in NOLA. Safety car still pacing the field. Andrea Caldarelli has the advantage. Jordan Pepper runs second, but there are some lapped cars in between those 2. Let's get an update from the Turner team. Will Turner standing by with Amanda. I'm very curious to hear his thoughts.
Well, I believe we're going to take a look over this replay, and I know you've seen it a couple times yourself. When you break it down, how do you digest what happened between Spinelli and your driver?
Well, the one thing that happened at the end is our left front suspension got damaged in it, so I don't think Robbie had a choice on his trajectory out there. But, you know, for most of the race, it was pretty good, clean racing, and I thought those guys were going to play nice together. But I think Spaghetti, or whatever his name is, got a little anxious and put the door on Robbie. But, you know, it's too bad because the race, it was for 3rd place. It wasn't for the win. It was for 3rd place out of 4 cars, so it didn't need to happen. But we'll see what happens tomorrow. Hopefully we'll get the BMW back up there and we'll go for it.
What goes through your mind when you see your car sitting in the gravel?
You know, racing is full of highs and lows, right? So last weekend we took a win in a sports car race that was amazing, and then when you see your car stuck in the gravel like this, it's the exact opposite. So it's a roller coaster, right? But it's what we do, and we do it for the ups, and we have to live with the lows.
He's a real racer, isn't he, Will Turner?
Yeah, great racer himself. So much success in World Challenge competition over the years. Runs a great team. They keep it light, they keep it fun, but boy, they want to win in the worst possible way.
Just watch how all of this sets up.
Well, Spinelli here is just carving these corners a little bit better, and he accelerates now, dives to the inside. He made this move a little bit earlier in the going, a few laps ago, couldn't quite make it stick. Now he's to the inside. Foley's being forced out wide. Right here, Spinelli's just trying to force him out wide so he can't come back on the attack, and then he ends up running wide through turn 5. That opened up the door. And right there, Foley went for it, and Spinelli tries to turn in. So I think it's 50-50. They're both going hard at it. I think Spinelli's frustrated. I think he has a potentially race-winning car, and he's just got mired in the pack a little bit. And he's trying to move forward. Saw the opportunity and just had to get a bit aggressive with it. And Robbie's like, hey, I'm not going to give it to you, mate. So he comes back at him, and unfortunately the contact broke the suspension.
Down inside, 11 minutes to go. Cleanup still continues here in the final moments of race 1 of the weekend. NOLA Motorsports Park. Andrea Caldarelli leading a K-Pax Racing 1-2.
Today's coverage is brought to you by Lamborghini, Lexus, and Mercedes-AMG.
behind the safety car with now 10 minutes to go. These pace laps or safety car laps are taking right around 3 minutes, a little bit less than that each. So we're looking at a couple laps maximum as a shootout here. Tempers are already pretty high. We know the temperature is plenty high. It's interesting to see the sun glinting off of these cars. We had been told expect some rain during this race. We've not seen rain. We've seen sunshine instead.
Yeah, totally different picture to what I was expecting at this stage of the race today. So good news is it looks like they've got that BMW hooked up. Hopefully they can clear that and we can get at least a lap or two of green flag running here at the end. As we said, Caldarelli does have an opportunity to scarper off here at the restart because he does have some lap cars between he and his old teammate from the championship winning year last year, Jordan Pepper.
It's further down the order, but I think Drew Stavely, Frank Gannett, and Ian Lacey Racing deserve a call. Running 11th overall and 7th in Pro-Am. So the team out of Utah with that Aston you see coming through the shot just a moment ago. Made a big, big step, especially for Frank, who got to racing relatively late in life and was a stalwart in GT4, but decided to take the plunge and go GT3 racing last year. And they'll be the first to admit they struggled through the year a year ago. But Ian, the team owner, told me that Sonoma went better than they expected. They did some tire testing between rounds. They feel like they understand the Pirelli tire and having a nice solid run here with Drew Stavely in 7th.
Yeah, it's a great little team. Ian Lacey was a great little racer himself, so it's nice to have a driver who's kind of leading the charge in terms of understanding the emotion of it. He's been here before in terms of having a year which was a bit of a struggle. It was a huge leap for them up to GT3 machinery. They've got a lot of support from Aston Martin Racing. Drew Stavely, I think he's as good as many in this paddock. I mean, he's just really a nice man, but just a great, great driver. And he's been, you know, kind of teaching Frank the ropes. And together they've just held fast and just keep digging in deep.
It's been great to see them start to find their sea legs with the GT3 car. Right now, 11th overall, 7th in class, with 8 minutes on the clock, and Andrea Caldarelli following the safety car. Seven minutes and 50 seconds left to go. Safety car still with the lights on, so it looks like it will be one more lap at least of full course yellow conditions. Lap times under yellow right around 3 minutes or thereabouts, so we're going to look at probably 3.5, 4 minutes to go by my math, and that's always treacherous to go by my math, but that's what I've come up with at best as far as laps remaining in this race when we go green.
When you were doing the math classes, you were studying Indy 500 history and other more important things.
That's right. That's right. My parents didn't think so at the time, but look at me now, Mom and Dad. No, that's what I've come up with. So there's not going to be a ton of time here, and Caldarelli loves what he sees in the rearview mirror, rear camera, with two cars that are not going to be pulling out of the way for anyone because they are in a battle of their own.
It's tough, right?
Yes, that's Cooper and Dial. That's 5th and 6th in Pro-Am. So, yeah, they've got no incentive to get out of the way and spice this race up for us.
What we need is a race director, not like Brian Taylor, who's totally by the book. We need someone who's going to clear that traffic so we can have a race to the finish like we saw in the F1 finale last year.
That's right. That's right. Michael, what are you doing?
Forget the rules. Let's
I don't think we'll get that.
No.
And actually, I think that's probably for the best. So let's look down the order and try and find our best fight. It's probably this one, right? Oberlin, Farnbacher. They have no one in between the two of them, and that is for the lead in Pro-Am. 3rd and 4th overall, too. You know, we talk so often about the fact that if these Pro-Am teams get it right, the cautions fall the right way, the teams are so good and the pros are all exceptional that they can mix it up with anybody. And this goes to show that's true with positions 3 and 4 overall to the Pro-Am teams, and you know, the vast majority of the Pro-Am teams running right there on the same pace.
I'll tell you what, I'm surprised I'm not seeing more tyre weaving or car weaving and try to scrub these tyres. There's an enormous amount of pickup here this weekend in terms of the marbling offline. So right now it's all about preparing the car for this anticipated restart here. So You can see Andrea there accelerating. They use the brake pedal a lot, riding it against the gas pedal at the same time, kind of two-footing it, trying to generate some heat up through the brakes, through the upright, into the wheel, and then into the tire itself. But that's not going to clean the tires off. So I'm surprised we're not seeing a bit more vigorous back and forth there, trying to get those front tires clean at least, because there's nothing worse than like getting all your timelines right in terms of how you're going to jump the start, but you turn into turn one and you got no one home on the front tires.
Caldarelli, who, along with his former co-driver, now rival, Jordan Pepper, swept the weekend at Sonoma. They had just about a perfect weekend. The only thing they did not get was a pair of poles. Caldarelli was edged for pole in race 2 by Loris Spinelli, but continuing their winning ways.
Safety car lights are out, I believe. It's got like a flashing thing on the screen, but I think the lights to the drivers is out on top of the pace car.
And Mike Stillwagon, the driver of that safety car, has accelerated away. Well, debris on the racetrack there. That will be cleared, and we're about to go back to green with just under 4.5 minutes to go to the start-finish straight. Caldarelli keeping that pace down. Cooper's not sure where to go. Dial's not sure where to go. Finally, Caldarelli accelerates. The fight is on for 5th and 6th in Pro-Am right behind. Side by side, further back. It's all mixed up coming into turn 1.
It is. Look at this little gaggle here. Look at Farnbacher down to the inside of Bill Auberlin, the Pro-Am leader in second place, is side by side there. Dial is stymied a little bit. Here comes Jordan Pepper to his flank, trying to clear him and chase after the leader.
South African Jordan Pepper now in the green K-Pax Lamborghini. Everybody all stacked up. Farnbacher around the outside. He's forced wide.
Auberlin saw it and just forced him out a little bit wider. Colin Brown is on the attack. He's grabbed the lead.
Colin Brown to P1, but he just got tagged by Auberlin. Here comes Farnbacher working the outside lane.
There's Spinelli to the inside, so I think Auberlin was so focused on Farnbacher, he didn't see what Colin Brown was doing, and Brown takes advantage of it. Goes to the Pro-Am lead.
Auberlin P1 to P3 on the restart. Farnbacher still running in the second spot in Pro-Am, but the big winner, Colin Brown, George Kurtz, and Riley Motorsports, they grab the Pro-Am lead.
Wow, 2 podiums at Sonoma may follow that up with a win in the championship lead here tonight. Great battle there. Cooper couldn't understand what Caldarelli was doing. He's like, listen, I'm trying to defend this track position to Ryan Dial, and you're not getting going with the program here.
Oh, dust kicked up all over this racetrack. Less than 3 minutes to go. Caldarelli has scampered away. Pepper stuck behind the 2 Pro-Am cars that are a lap down, but fighting for 5th and 6th. That's Cooper and Dial right in front of him, so he won't have a chance to run down Caldarelli for the overall lead. Now, behind him, the fight is on for the lead in Pro-Am with Brown in the Mercedes, and then we've got the Acura right behind a Farnbacher.
Auberlin had a big run there on Spinelli, but nowhere to go with it. Spinelli a little bit loose there, getting into turn 1. I wonder if his car is taking a bit of a hit in the alignment with that rubbing that he had with Robbie Foley about 10 minutes ago.
And again, this is not for class position here. This is the pro class car of Spinelli. Auberlin, who now is 3rd in Pro-Am, but must clear Spinelli if he's going to challenge to get up to 2nd or even the leading class.
Yeah, Colin Brown, as we said, laid down a really fast lap earlier in this race that has been taken away by Giacomo Altoe aboard the number 9 TR3 white Lamborghini. On board with Spinelli, trying to work over Farnbacher up ahead. Been quite the eventful race for him. Anything but straightforward.
Corey Lewis picked up 2 spots on that restart. Let's give him a call. He and Jeff Burton now are 7th in Pro-Am, 10th overall, a little ways behind as we ride on board. Loris Spinelli, 4th place, make that 3rd place in Pro, 5th overall, and watching the battle for the Pro-Am lead out his windshield.
This has been a wild one. I mean, the competition is just so strong. As we said, we had 8 cars running lap times within 2 to 3 tenths of one another.
Should be coming around to take the white flag this time by with just over 1 minute to go. And it takes over 90 seconds to do a lap here. So we expect the white flag in the hands of Tom Hansing this time by. Andrea Caldarelli by over 3.5 seconds holds the lead. Jordan Pepper, trapped behind traffic, runs 2nd.
Yeah, and Cooper's doing all he can to try and maintain that position 5 in the Pro-Am class. Ryan Dial super close right there into the brake zone. Pepper just a few car lengths back. Thial's having a very strong season aboard a number of cars in various championships.
Well, for Cooper and Vogel, if they can hold on to that 5th spot, that would almost feel like a win. As lost as they were to start the weekend and the fuel pump issues that basically cost them the 2nd practice session, they were way down the order, started 16th overall. Now run 8th overall, but 5th in class.
Yeah, it's hard to keep your chin up. It's a great question by Amanda too, Aaron, in terms of how do you focus in terms of the weekend when you're struggling with the car, and it is very difficult because you're not just worried about, you know, strategy, where to position the race car, how to drive the race car. You're always thinking about how can we improve this car and make it better for me, and you're tweaking the car throughout the practice sessions. It's not straightforward.
Last time through, the high-speed S is Caldarelli out and in control. Relatively in control, Colin Brown, but he has caught Jordan Pepper and could get balked, and if he does, Farnbacher is there waiting to pounce. Coming through this final sequence of corners for the last time, there is Brown, the Pro-Am leader. He's got the Acura of Farnbacher right behind him. That is 1st and 2nd in Pro-Am, but out in front, the overall lead, the overall win to K-Pax Racing. Michele Beretta and Andrea Caldarelli win again. Caldarelli stays perfect in 2022. Colin Brown from 3rd to 1st on that final restart. He takes the Pro-Am class win. Am class to Triarsi Competizione, their 1st win of the 2022 campaign.
That was spectacular. This racetrack is fun.
And the incident between Spinelli and Foley was reviewed, no action taken.
I agree with that one too. I mean, it was just 2 hard races going at it. Neither one wanted to give it an inch, and they needed another ½ inch.
How about Andrea Caldarelli? Doesn't matter that you change his teammate up on him. Doesn't matter the new track that they had no previous experience on. He goes out, he goes fast, he wins.
He does, but it wasn't that straightforward. I mean, it looked at, you know, they kind of led from the pole with his teammate, but that was all about qualifying today, getting that track position, maintaining it, executing the pit stop. Wasn't a brilliant pit stop, but it was good enough to maintain the lead. And then having that traffic between he and Pepper at the finish, I think was really a game changer, because I think if Pepper was there, who knows what could have happened.
Let's take one more look at how Colin Brown got the lead and ultimately the win in Pro-Am. Keep an eye on the CrowdStrike Mercedes.
Yeah, look at him. See the bright green Lamborghini there. I think Oberlin sees Farnbacher to his flank, and Colin Brown, as we're seeing with those Mercedes, able to just carve that corner, comes through turn 3 and clears him by the time they get to the apex for turn 4.
Nifty move, 3rd win going back to last year for this pairing of Kurtz and Brown in Fanatec GT. A well-earned win with some late race heroics. Colin Brown, George Kurtz take the victory in Pro-Am. Andrea Caldarelli and K-Pax win overall. Wow, that safety car sure did spice things up at the end of the race. You feel for Turner because it looked like they had a good race going, a chance to get up on the podium for sure. Great fights throughout the race between US Racetronics and Turner, in both stints, in fact, and it's a shame someone had to lose out in that way.
Yeah, just great battling, and I think this is really showcasing what this championship is going to be about all year. I think there's so many strong teams, strong drivers, strong cars. You know, if you're off a little bit in terms of out of sync with your strategy, with your track position, with your qualifying run, it changes the day and turns it upside down.
I'm curious because Halen and Luck, remember they did those repairs, they got back out. They were the Pro-Am points leaders coming in. They got back out, and by my calculations,
that's over 70%.
It is. It's 74%. Yeah. They did 37 laps, and that is enough. They finished 10th, so they will score points here today. That is big.
Every one counts, right?
That's right. We get down to the end of the year, we could be talking about that effort to fix the splitter, get this car back out, and that could make the difference in the championship.
It even looks good.
It does. No surprise, right, Motorsports?
Gave it a wax before they sent him out.
On top of things, as usual, look, it's not going to be much of a salve on the wound, but credit to them.
But it's positivity.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? For a team to do that, the teams will respond. The drivers will respond to that. They appreciate the effort, and it's all about execution. It's small victories on a day when the day didn't go well.
Similar story, probably, as we talked about, for real time, right? This was a weekend that looked like it could easily just be written off as a lost weekend, and they come home with a fifth and some impressive pace that maybe gives them some hope for tomorrow, especially if it should rain.
Absolutely, and I was looking at Erin Vogel in her interview. I know Alex Albon has had his hair painted to get that points run for Williams in the Formula One Championship. Maybe we need to see Michael Cooper with that purple tinge in his hair. Maybe that'll turn their results around.
We'll have to broach the subject with Michael after the race. K-Pax Racing, once again, coming home with the race win and another 1-2, as they have done so often in the last couple of seasons. But it's Caldarelli edging his old teammate Jordan Pepper for the win in NOLA. Victory Lane about to get busy at NOLA Motorsports Park with Andrea Caldarelli and Michele Beretta set to claim their first win as a tandem in Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. Let's head down to Victory Lane and Amanda Busick.
Well, I believe the two drivers are going back and forth on the race that they just had. Michele, we saw you celebrating at the fence, getting the win here in Fanatec GT. When you look at the work that you did today, grabbing the pole, what will you take from this win for yourself?
It was a great job from everybody, not only from my side, but all the team did a great job. We had a good car for the race. Andrea managed the pace, and I think we did a clean race with no mistakes, and we look forward for the next one. It's going to be a little bit more tricky, but we can do something good. So good job for everybody.
As we transition over, Andrea, I just want to talk about the battle that the drivers go through here in the heat. You got out and immediately asked for water, doused yourself with it. But Andrea, a new teammate here this weekend, a brand new track. How do you stay ahead of the adjustments that you get faced with?
Well, I mean, I know Michele since a long time. It's driving with Lambo since a long time, and so we know each other. But first time actually we share a car, so it was very good. I tried to speed up, like with all the development and the work we did in the last few months. So, but he did an amazing job today. Qualifying race, he managed a very good pace. So I think this victory does really go for the team, because this morning didn't look very good in qualifying, so hopefully we did some good progress.
Congratulations.
Definitely a pairing to keep an eye on as the season progresses. That gives Caldarelli a leg up in the championship picture now that he is split from Jordan Pepper. That could be the fight to watch throughout the year. Pepper, though, comes home in second. And Misha Goikberg, good solid result.
Yeah, it was. Lots to chew on tonight in terms of looking forward to tomorrow. It's a very mixed-up grid tomorrow. We see the Lamborghini, I think they qualified 6th and 7th, with Caldarelli just pipping Jordan Pepper. Pepper had a good lap going, couldn't complete it in Sector 3. So the pace, you look at them, okay, they finished 1st and 2nd, but there are a few cars in that field that have a slight edge. It's all very tight. We're just talking about small margins, a 10th here and there, but they do not have the fastest cars here this weekend, but that was all about execution. We've said it many times during the race today. They set the table with that qualifying run, good clean start, beautifully managed. Okay pit stop, not brilliant. They didn't need a brilliant one. They had a big margin there, and then at the end, Caldarelli, managed that restart perfectly.
Speaking of the restart, what a great restart it was from Colin Brown. Let's hear from our Pro-Am winners.
Well, Ryan, you were talking about your math skills earlier. If mine are correct, I do believe we're standing next to the points leader in Pro-Am. And George, during that race, we talked about the door being wide open for you guys. Now being the points leader, how does that set you guys up for race 2?
Well, I think it's still early in the season, but, this guy was mega. Mega. So, congrats to him. It was all on his shoulders. He did a great job.
George, this one seems a bit emotional for you.
It was a good one. It was a great one. Yeah, I mean, George did such a good job there in the early part of the race, and we certainly, we struggled at the start of the weekend, to be honest. And the Riley guys and CrowdStrike guys buckled down. We just made improvements over every single session, and we had great pit stops by the guys, good strategy, and kind of got back out there when it was green, ran those guys down a little bit, caught the yellow, got packed up, and then just went on the restart. And it's exciting racing. I mean, everyone was side by side, and we were all packed up and tight. And on the restart, Spinelli pulled out a line before the line and messed everything up. So it was like, I didn't know what was going to happen. And honestly, surprised to come out of there in the lead of Pro-Am. But, just hats off to all the guys. They worked super hard, and it was a good effort.
And the team did a really great job. I mean, CrowdStrike and Riley, you got to give credit. I mean, we worked all weekend, and to get a win like this is special.
I know you touched on it just briefly, but how long were you setting that one up in your mind before you made that move?
I didn't really know it was going to happen. I knew we had strong pace, but I didn't know how the restart's going to happen, right? And I got down into turn 3 and everyone checked up on the inside, and I just kind of committed to staying to the inside. And, Mario went on the outside, and I thought he was going to get it done around the outside, but I just ran the tight line and, got the drive off, and that was that. A lot of fun. Thank you.
Cool, great insight there from Colin. He didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't either. That's what keeps it fun.
Certainly was. Really exciting stuff, and interesting to hear their story, too, of overcoming a difficult start to the weekend.
Yeah, it's all about digging. You come to a new racetrack, you don't have a notebook to work from. It's all about being efficient through those practice sessions. Don't panic. You got to factor in tire life and everything else.
Once more to Victory Circle and Amanda.
And they will take the top step here in the AM category, and I know you guys have been pushing through to get this victory. How did you get it done?
Well, we had a good gap in the beginning of the race, and we stayed consistent, we stayed clean, and it's very hot in there. We just stayed calm and made sure there was no contact on any of the restarts and pushed through it till the end.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
First win of the season for Triarci Competizione, able to take that one home over the AF Corsa duo of JC Sada and Conrad Grunwald. Exciting race here today at NOLA Motorsports Park. Still a whole lot more to look forward to, and also the prospect of the weather having an impact tomorrow.
Today's coverage is brought to you by Porsche, Optima Batteries, and Skip Barber Racing School.
Putting the bow on an exciting race one of the weekend. About to have the podium celebration get started for Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. I think the big question mark coming into the weekend, Calvin, was how would this track race? We had not seen professional GT racing at NOLA Motorsports Park in the past. What were your impressions of race one?
It was exciting. I mean, we saw some great action. It was tough to get a pass done. You had to really work someone over. Their elbows were out on occasion, but that's what it's all about. Good, hard racing. We didn't really see any big penalties called in terms of some of the contact that we saw there today, but that's the nature of this circuit. It's so flowing in certain sectors. You have an advantage, but making it stick before you get to the next corner where you may be turning in the other direction is very, very difficult. But I anticipated later in the runs when you got a bit more tire degradation, we would see some passing. I think we're going to see even more with the GT4 competition here a little bit later this afternoon.
The good news for those that had a difficult day today is you've got a very short turnaround. You get back at it tomorrow, and two teams that come to mind. Turner, of course, for the frustration late in the race with how their race ended, and then DXDT with both of their cars really struggling here today. The bad news is you don't have much time to fix any problems you might have, but you got to put it behind you, and you've got a chance to redeem yourself very quickly.
Well, again, we talked about the winners today. The table was set in qualifying with that pole lap by Beretta. For tomorrow, the qualifying has already been laid out, so you got to think about where we're sitting on the grid. It is tough to pass. You're not going to skype your way through from the back of the field all the way forward. We saw it with Spinelli. We've seen the advantage he's had all weekend. It was tough for him to move forward today.
That said, he's going to have clear track in front of him at the start. Now, I did notice, even on that last restart, we saw the initial start and two restarts, and that U.S. Racetronics Mercedes didn't seem to have the get up and go that some of the other part of the field had, and I wonder how that's going to look tomorrow when they're the pole sitter.
Well, we talk about the Mercedes being so strong over a lap, but when you think about straightaway speed, it's probably the one box that it doesn't totally tick. It's going to be a mile or two off, so you can get out accelerated. If someone pulls a draft on you, you're vulnerable down into that turn one braking zone.
We'll see how that plays out. Turn one, pretty interesting here at this track. I heard a couple of drivers compare it to Portland, the chicane there, or the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but the nice thing about this one is you do have that extra room on the outside, and we saw a nice clean start to the race here today. We hope for more of the same tomorrow, that's for sure. Looking forward to celebrating our podium finishers at the inaugural round at NOLA Motorsports Park here in just a few moments, so stay with us. AM-Class podium about to be recognized. Second place, of course, AF Corsa. JC Sada, Conrad Grunwald, and Conrad had a really good qualifying effort for race two. He'll be starting mid-pack overall. Excited to see that tomorrow. But how about it for the first time this season and at the second time overall, class winners, Charlie Scardina and Onofrio Triarsi.
Yeah, really solid result for them. It's great to see the Ferraris battling out for that AM class win. And Ray F. Corsa, they know they've got a lot of work to do this year.
Well, it's been a fun day here at NOLA. We'll do it again tomorrow. Thanks so much for joining us. Talk to you then.